What's going on, people? Good morning, and it's time to turn the page yet again with another look at Pass Coverage Thursday. And we got one game left. So, what we have in terms of our coverage players is pretty well taken form. But every game is an opportunity to learn things. So, let's take a look here and see if there's anything worth learning. And right at the very top here, we got to start with a guy whose season is over. I think we all know this. It is Jordan Brooks. He ends his season on a game where, admittedly, he didn't play most of the game, but he only got targeted once the whole game. Gave up one completion for, I think, like 12 yards. So I guess that's good. So Jordan Brooks, his season is over, and his QB rating allowed is actually worse than it was last year, I believe. So, excuse me. I think Brooks got worse in coverage this year. Now, some of that might be because the pass rush was a little bit worse. Some of that might be because of the situations he was put into. There are extenuating circumstances, of course, but I think Jordan Brooks it's unthinkable that he'll ever become a good cover player. It's impossible to believe. I think he's worse than he was last year. I think the only reason why he has fewer yards allowed in coverage, which he does. Last year he had over 800. Some sites gave him over 1,000. This year he's going to end up with a 749 by my count. But I think overall he's probably a little bit worse. And it's just helped having another middle linebacker out on the field at the same time with him most of the time. Just so the pain gets spread around a little bit. So Jordan Brooks ends another season as one of the worst cover linebackers in the league. Cody Barton, on the other hand, his season has really evened out. He did give up a few completions in this game. He did allow, let me check the edit history here to be sure I get this right, just 16 yards in coverage. So if you're getting targeted like 4 times in a game and you're giving up 16 coverage yards, that's really good. And Barton's cover numbers overall this year, they're not amazing, but they're workable, totally workable. And at this point, I think we have to really start wondering, is Cody Barton going to be here in 2023? And I think the answer may be yes. Taylor was targeted once, didn't give up the completion. Nwosu gave up one completion, but it was for about 3 yards. I believe Mafe got targeted once, incomplete pass. And that's it for the linebackers. So pretty gentle for the linebackers in this game. Cornerback. Again, pretty productive. Tariq Woolen got targeted a lot in this game. He got targeted 10 times, and he gave up 5 completions, which usually that doesn't happen, right? Usually teams are not throwing at Tariq Woolen that much, but he held up fairly well. He gave up about 50 yards in coverage, 53 yards. He made a couple plays on the ball, and his QB rating allowed fell to 48, according to PFR. So if you're getting targeted 10 times in a game and you're giving up 53 yards as an outside corner, I'm happy with that. Obviously, we're used to Woolen rarely getting targeted, but the Jets decided to go at him a little bit. They had a little bit of success, but overall, you would say he did his job. And speaking of doing his job, let's talk about Michael Jackson for a second here, because he also got targeted a pretty decent amount, 8 times in this game, and he only allowed 3 completions for, let's make sure I get this right here, 31 yards, and he had the interception. So Michael Jackson, there are problems with him as a player. He's not a very good tackler, and I do think that it's fair to say that hopefully we can get a little bit better at that position next year, but if we don't, I'm not dreading that. Michael Jackson, unless he has a pretty bad Week 18 game, is going to end up giving up less than 500 yards. And he's played a vast majority of snaps this year. Going to give up around 55, 56% completion. He's going to be somebody who got targeted a lot and held up. And now he's got an interception to his name, which, I mean, at this point, the interception isn't even really what we're talking about. We're talking about these coverage numbers that are, in my book, solid, especially when we don't have a pass rush. We don't. Trey Brown did not play. I think his season is just kind of in the can at this point. I don't know any other way to put it. Kobe Bryant, played the pretty decent chunk of snaps, got targeted 3 times for 3 completions, and a grand total of 28 yards. So not bad, not great, not anything remarkable. Kobe played fine. Not much to say about it. He continues to be a player who is playing out of position, so it's hard for me to really kill him. But at the same time, I'm hoping that in the future we can see him at his natural position. I think he will be better, and I think that he will add a further dimension to this team because his ability to do things like force turnovers, that's going to be the case no matter where he plays. So his QB rating allowed is up to 117, which is obviously not very good. That would be very different if he actually got, a couple of interceptions this year, which he really should have, but the referees decided they didn't like him very much. So, yeah, Kobe, he's got some stuff to learn, but I really want to see him on the outside at some point just to see what he can do. But for a slot corner as a rookie, this really isn't that bad. I want to stress that as well. Safety. Quandre Diggs was targeted once in this game, and they regretted it. Quandre Diggs picked it off, and they did not target him again the rest of the day. So his completion percentage allowed is down to about 58%. He's allowed just over 300 yards in coverage, the 3 touchdowns, and now 3 interceptions for a QB rating of 82. And obviously, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Quandre Diggs probably doesn't deserve to go to the Pro Bowl. Quandre Diggs probably is getting in there on reputation. That does not mean he's a bad player. He's having issues tackling, and he's not the ball hawk that he was the last couple years. But these coverage numbers are good. Remember, he's working with no pass rush. He's been targeted 33 times as a safety, has given up 312 yards. I can live with that. And his QB rating allowed is down right below 82. So is he having his best season? No, far from it. But I think the hate might be a little unwarranted. We had 2 other safeties play in this game, significant snaps. You had Teez Tabor. He did get targeted a fair few times in this game. 3 times. That's actually not that many now that I say it out loud. He did give up the 3 completions, though, for a grand total of 34 yards. So, again, I'm happy living with that. It's Teez Tabor, right? Like, you just hope he goes out there and doesn't embarrass himself, and I don't think he did. QB rating allowed so far this year is 100. And Jonathan Abram, whose weakness is coverage, and I'm not saying he didn't give up stuff, but you take a look. You see he got targeted a lot in this game. They said he got targeted 9 times and only gave up 3 completions for 58 yards. So, decent chunk of yards, but when you're getting targeted that much, that's cool. I don't have a big problem with you giving up 58 yards if you're going to get targeted 9 times as a safety. His QB rating allowed plummeted to 66.5. So, good job by Jonathan Abram. I thought he held up pretty good in that game. I know PFF hasn't really been into him so far this year, but these coverage numbers are something I'm happy to live with from a guy like Abram. Remember, think about what we're used to here with our players who have a reputation for being bad in coverage, like Jordan Brooks. He never has games like that. All right, so that's it for past coverage Thursday. Let me know what you guys think. We're almost done with this series, and we'll see where we land next week.